Okay. Welcome everyone to the December 10th, 2020 meeting of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District Board. I'm President Chris Deppe. I'll call roll. Director Natoli.
Here.
Director Sherswat.
Here.
Director Hassah.
Here.
Director Madavi.
Here.
And I'm here. So thank everyone for attending. Report out from the closed session, we gave direction to staff. And before we get into the public comments, there is, give me a second here, where is that? Right, just some clarification, because I think the last meeting there was confusion about how this all works. Per agenda item, we allow a public member to speak just once. So if you say something and then you want to say something again, you just have to wait until next time. So there's no coming back to speak again once you've spoken at that on the agenda item. And also, I'm going to be pretty strict with the time limit. It's tough. We don't have a timer. Actually, Zoom has a lot of feature requests where you could put a timer app into the display, but it doesn't exist now, and I couldn't figure out a way to make it happen. So I'll be strict with the timing. Once the 3 minutes or whatever the time is, again, if it's a lot of people, we might cut it to 2, but if it's the whatever time limit it is, once it's done, it's going to ring, and I'm just going to break in and tell you your time is up. Otherwise, it can just go on and on. So forgive me if it seems rude, but that's really, in Zoom, there's really no other way to do it. When I ask you to speak, I unmute you, and then when you're done, I mute you again. And it's not because I want to mute you per se, but that's how we do it. So once your time is up, you'll be muted. So hopefully that's clear. All right, so now is the time for the public to speak on items that are within the jurisdiction of the district, but not on the agenda. And I will. Lawrence Ty, it looks like you need to unmute yourself. Hello.
It's Lawrence Thal, T-H-A-L.
Oh, I didn't see it. Sorry, Thal, right.
And I'll be brief. This is the first time I've addressed this board since I went off this board in 1994, where I had served for 15 years. So I want to thank you for your service to Kensington. I am not currently a resident of Kensington, but certainly am a property owner and have two concerns that I've had since I was on the board previously, and still have as a member of the Kensington Improvement Club and as a property owner. And that deals with fire safety. I had thought that the Kensington paths would be on the agenda tonight. They're not. So I would like to briefly comment regarding the paths, as well as the situation with the fire and police station, which I know is a ongoing concern that both the Police Protection District and the Fire Board have. My understanding is that with an earthquake, there's a good probability that the public safety building will be inoperative. And a rapid response team is absolutely necessary with an earthquake or a fire, as are the Kensington paths. And it is very, very easy after the fact to say, I wish we had done this, or I wish we had done that. At this point, I'm urging you and the fire district as well, not to let that happen, to take the actions that need to be taken. And I know the paths are within your purview, and the public safety building only partially in your purview. But those are my two significant concerns. And again, thank you for your service, and I hope you will consider both of them.
All right, thank you. And just so you know, well, I'll have something to say about the paths in my board comments, but it is expected that there will be an agenda item on the January meeting about the paths. So, all right, Danielle Madugo, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Danielle Madugo. I live on Highland Boulevard on the Westminster Path. And I just wanted to say that I know the paths aren't on the agenda tonight, but I'm looking forward to them being on the agenda next time. As I didn't speak last month, but I am a concerned resident and path owner, a resident along a path, because I am looking forward to the community service district, becoming active with hopefully taking care of and maintaining the paths, because we would like to take care of them too, but our concern is liability. So I think ownership by our town would be beneficial for all, and I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion next month. That's it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right. Julie, you should be okay.
Yes, thanks, Chris. I would just like to thank whoever's responsible, whether it's you or your general manager or your general counsel, for what I thought was a very excellent Brown Act briefing for your finance committee meeting. And it might not have been your last meeting. I might not be keeping up, but general counsel and Danforth, I thought, gave a really excellent and helpful briefing to the committee and the role of the general manager, and how to sort of execute that agenda and the way that committee functions, and really emphasizing why the Brown Act is sort of set up the way it is, and the fact that standing committees, even when they include residents, still need to function as essentially an arm of the board of directors. So I watched that meeting and I thought it was very helpful, and I just wanted to thank the board and the general manager and the general counsel for that briefing.
Thank you. And that was really the general counsel and the general manager. I just sat and watched. So thank you, general manager and general counsel. Anyone else would like to say something? No? All right. Great. So the first item is adopting proposing to adopt resolution 2020-20, the board of directors, and that is declaring the results of the November 3rd, 2020 statewide election resolution. Bill, could you introduce this? There you go.
I'd be glad to. I think actually I would defer to the board secretary or maybe legal counsel on this.
Okay.
But this is something obviously very important, but this resolution is something of a housekeeping item. It's to declare the results of the election of the two directors, and then later on swearing in these these continuing directors. So this is the official canvass of votes, and the board is obligated to adopt a resolution accepting that.
Okay. Since it is an agenda item, let's just see if there's any members of the public that want to say something. Yep, there is somebody. Delk, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. A. Stevens Delk. The resolution states, whereas the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisor have caused the results of said election to be properly certified, etc. It should be the Board of Supervisors, plural, and the verb should be has caused to agree with the board, which is singular. But what is important is that the numbers listed are not the ones stated in the certification letter from the county, but just the numbers for the vote by mail ballots. With the resolution as written, those who voted in person have been disenfranchised. Perhaps a rebuke for not trusting the mail-in process. The resolution should be corrected before it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like Sylvia, you've got something to say?
Yeah, it was the same thing, that the column that was put into number of votes was just the first column in the official results that are on the county, and there was a second column that had then included a total, because it was mail-in, then in person, and then totals. And I do have the numbers for the total votes. Certainly they can be checked against, don't take my word for it, but I did quickly write down the numbers if you would like me to at least give them.
Yes, that would be good.
So the total votes that I recorded were 2,287 for Hassai, 1,941 for Natoli, 1,160 for Walter, 1,082 for Stelton, and a total of 6,470.
So let me, because I'm looking at the site now, that's 1,082. From top to bottom, 2287, 1941, 1160, and 1082. That's what you have also? Sylvia?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I see on the site. So
So if I may, Mr. President, the board should amend the resolution to reflect those corrected numbers.
all right, is that a separate motion?
It can be part of the motion to adopt.
Okay, great. And correcting the verbiage.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Well, again, that's a separate agenda item. Anybody have any comments from the public? Oh, no, sorry, we're still asking that. Great. Any other members of the public have any comments? Any board members besides what we already said have any comments? Questions? All right, then I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2020-20, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District, declaring results of election held on November 3rd, 2020 for the election of directors with the following amendments. Where is that? Whereas the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors have caused the results. So it just needs to change the supervisors. Supervisors has caused, right? Okay. And then the number of votes for Hassai is 2287. For Natoli is 1941. For Walter is 1160. And for Stelton is 1082. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Take a roll call. Sylvia,
Aye.
Eileen,
Yes.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Cyrus,
Aye.
and I vote yes. So that's passes 5-0. And then the next item is administering the oath, which I will do. Let me get that paper out. Okay, Just gonna do the Sylvia. Oh, you want to go first?
Sure.
All right. This is for the Office of Director on the Board of Directors of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District. I, Sylvia Hassai, do solemnly swear
I, Sylvia Hassai, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I will, sorry, that I will, I
Sorry.
can't remember.
I'll do
I
it again.
thought I have it written down somewhere. Why don't I just read this? I have it here. Can I do that?
No, you have to recite it and you have to
Oh,
repeat. So I'll do it again.
Okay. That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
All right. Thank you and congratulations. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
All right, Eileen, you're next.
Right.
Again, this is also for the Office of Director on the Board of Directors of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District. Repeat after me. I, Eileen Natoli,
I, Eileen Natoli,
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the State of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
All right, thank you. You're sworn in, and also congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And I also want to say thank you to the other candidates who ran. It's and it takes a lot of work, and it's not easy to put your name out and go through that. And so I think everyone should be commended for at least volunteering, especially, and offering their services to the board. So thank everybody for running. All right. And the next item is board and staff comments, communication. Bill, your general manager's report, you're up. Here he goes. Oh, before we start this, I wanted to clarify something also. We have to be careful not to, speaking of the Brown Act, to inadvertently start a discussion that's not on the agenda. So with the staff and board comments, they're really meant as one-way communication. If someone has a question to clarify something or to ask what something they don't understand, that's okay, but we can't get into a back and forth discussion because it does, inadvertently create an agenda item, and that's not on the agenda, and we really shouldn't be doing that. So if you've got a question after Bill or Walt, feel free to ask it, but it really should just be to clarify or get more information, but we can't have a back and forth because it really does start a discussion, and that's against certainly the spirit and probably the letter of the Brown Act. For the board, we have to even be more careful because the staff is not really setting policy, but again, you could veer into problems. But with the board, with our comments, we really, unless there's a critical item that needs clarification, let's just try to let the board members speak and then go on to the next, because that really can easily veer into a discussion that's not on the agenda. So having said that, Bill, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 3 items to report on this evening. The first is to provide an update on the public safety building. That's something that the board has requested, and certainly the community is very interested to keep abreast about the activities there. There's really no information to report to the board at this meeting regarding the progress on the conceptual design for that building renovation. It is being moved forward by the fire district, but right now they're not moving it forward until they have their new general manager on board. I was provided with a copy of the report that went to the Kensington Fire Department board meeting last night or yesterday, and it indicated that, and here I'm just going to quote, the new general manager, Bill Hansel, has become familiar with the project and will develop a plan that will include project organization and management roles and responsibilities and timeline. So in the email that I got from the interim manager, Mary Mayorga, she's indicating that will move forward again in January. So that's the status there. Wanted to mention the impact of recent public health orders on the Kensington Park and the related facilities in the park. As you are aware, this past week, the Contra Costa County Public Health Department issued new and more stringent health orders in an effort to address the recent surge in COVID-19 cases. And so in addition to complying with orders that were already in place, there were several new requirements impacting Kensington Park usage. So the current requirements for the park, and if you've heard the verbiage, there is the health officials are encouraging people to go out and use parks, but the requirements basically are that that users wear a mask and observe social distancing at all times. There was an issue about the park restrooms and whether they should be open. That was about 2 months ago when we addressed that. And they will continue to be kept open during daylight hours as they are now. There's no specific language in the updated health order that says one way or the other whether park restrooms should be open or closed. However, the CDC generally recommends that restrooms be open if a park facility is open. So we're following those CDC guidelines and maintaining standards for cleaning and disinfecting on a daily basis. One thing that is different is that the basketball and tennis courts may remain open. However, the public health order states that there is to be no mixing of households as to their use. And we've installed appropriate signage indicating this to be the case. That is outside the entrance to the tennis courts and the basketball courts. And I noticed, I looked, and we haven't done this yet, but that needs to be added to the website. So we'll make sure that we take care of that as well. Earlier in the week, the public health order said that the playgrounds should also be closed. And we did have signage on the playground indicating that that was the case. As of yesterday, they changed that. And now playgrounds, park playgrounds can be open. And so we've removed the signs and those are now open for regular use. There's, I think, a very good document on the County Public Health Department website. It's at a glance summary of the stay-at-home requirements as of December 9th. And it has a good checklist about not only parks, but about businesses that are open and closed. I think it's really very good. This report, by the way, is posted on this board meeting website, and I've indicated I've provided the link to that at a glance summary, which again I think is very good. And finally, just something on an administrative nature. You may recall a couple of months ago you retained a new auditor, the firm of Nigro and Nigro. And I wanted to advise the board that that audit, that process has begun. We've done the engagement letter. This, responding to a question that was raised by Director Madavi last month. We still don't have a signed contract. We have an engagement letter and they're starting work, but if you don't see the contract on the website, that's why. It's still just not signed yet. But I don't think there's any problem with it. It's just a housekeeping item that needs to be taken care of. But in any case, the audit will be a little bit delayed this year. In the RFP, we specified that it should be done by the end of the calendar year without fail. And this year, since the 18-19 audit was late and that made the procurement of the auditor later than normal, they're starting later than normal. And so this completion of the financial statements should drift into the next not the next fiscal year, the next calendar year, really the next calendar year. We had a good kickoff meeting with the auditor, and they have I think some very good ideas for reformatting some of the financial statements, which make a lot of sense. And so I'm very pleased with your selection, and I think we'll have it'll set a good financial direction. I think audits are important to establish baseline financial reporting, and that will be done, I think, on a regular basis. So with that, I'm going to offer also my congratulations to Director Natoli and Director Hasai. Really enjoy working with them. So congratulations on your re-election to the board. And finally, I would wish to all of you and to those hearing the meeting tonight, I would wish that you have a very wonderful and safe holiday season. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Sylvia, you have a question? Let me lower your hand for you then. Sorry. I'll ask the questions. At least I have some. Bill, when the new general manager talks about the public safety building project, I take it he means the design project.
Yes, I believe that's right. I think we're still in that conceptual design stage.
Okay, right. And you said masks are required in the park. Does that mean at all times, regardless of whether you can or not, you can maintain social distancing, or is it one of these masks when you can't maintain the social distancing?
I would, far be it for me to speak for a public health official, but I really do think that the public health officials want people to wear masks at all times, especially since there can be a concentration of individuals from time to time at parks. It's different than, say, if you're walking on a trail where, maybe you'll pass somebody, but in a park, it's a little bit more, there can be concentrations from time to time.
Right.
And I really do think that they want people to wear masks at all times.
In fact, I think the governor's order, if I'm not mistaken, requires masks at all times outside now. So I think that's kind of without question. And they still are asking for social distancing even at the playgrounds as much as possible, certainly among the adults especially.
Okay, great.
And we have signage up at the park near the playground that I believe explains all that. I think we should if we don't, but I'm pretty sure there is signage around the fence by the play structure.
That signage is still there, and it may need to be updated as you bring it up, Director Hasai, because it was put up some time ago and things have evolved as these orders have changed.
They can check it. I think that the signs are pretty complete because they recommend they say distancing, hand washing, facial masks, but it would be good to check them.
And as far as the tennis, it says members of the same household only. Do you know if the singles only restrictions is still there? That was there for a long time, but I don't know if that was relaxed or brought back.
I didn't read that one way or the other. I know that was relaxed, and the quote that sticks in my mind is if you had a social bubble, it's now popped. And so basically now it is households only in your social bubble. So I think singles within your household, doubles within your household, but no mix.
It might be good when people are making attendance reservations to remind them of that.
Yeah, and that's what
So-
needs to go on the website, is some more specificity regarding these rules.
I mean, when they call to make a reservation, it'd be good if whoever takes that just reminds people gently of the new rules. The stay-at-home document, it's on the the at-a-glance documents on our meeting page. Should we put a teaser or on the homepage about that? Would that be a good idea?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea.
Okay.
I check the county's public health page from time to time for changes of requirements, and really they do a very good job with their at-a-glance and frequently asked questions, providing good summaries of these rules.
All right. Yeah, we should have that. I don't know if we have, I think we might have had it at some point. Let me just see. No, we don't have anything. So we should have a teaser on the homepage, maybe just a link to the general COVID county page, and then people can navigate from there.
Okay.
All right. Any other board members have questions for Bill? Let's see if anybody in attendance in the public have a question for Bill. I don't see any. All right, then, Walt, you want to go?
Yes, thank you. I just have a couple quick items. We've been continuing to have complaints about the East Bay mud filtration project. Cement trucks and semi trucks are a major concern for the Berkeley Park residents. Officer Harms and I have been working with East Bay mud, but violations are continuing. And so we've increased our presence in enforcement. Officer Harms has dedicated 20% of his time to Berkeley Park, logging over 10 hours in the last 5 days and issuing 14 citations. We also met with 2 commercial enforcement units from the California Highway Patrol on safety recommendations and enforcement. I will also be sending Officer Harms to commercial enforcement school. And we will be doing a joint commercial enforcement safety inspection sometime in January. Officer Harms and I also scheduled a meeting with East Bay Mud Project Manager to discuss safety protocol measures that were previously implemented. And this should occur next week. Lastly, I want to thank Director Natoli for taking an active interest in this ongoing issue and for scheduling a community meeting for us this week with the Berkeley Park residents. We were able to advise them what we are doing now and what we're going to do in the future. So they were kept informed. So I appreciate Director Natoli arranging that for us. I also want to briefly mention that anyone wishing to participate in the Vacation Watch program does not have to come to the station. Due to the COVID-19, the officer can take your information over the phone and we can get that all squared away for you on the phone. So don't bother to come in, just give us a call. And those are the only 2 things I have for tonight.
Yeah, thanks. And
Any directors have any questions?
I have just a couple of comments. The residents really appreciated your meeting and also Officer Harms. So thank you very much. Officer Harms mentioned that the enforcement that he'll be looking at will apply to any driver, which means cars as well as trucks. And you might want to put that on Nixle because if you ever sat down pre-COVID in front of Semi-Friddy's and had a cup of coffee in the morning, you could see easily within an hour 5, 6, 7, 8 illegal U-turns or left turns at Santa Fe and Calusa. So people may start to get surprised by that. And also many U-turns across the double yellow lines around Semi-Freddy's. So I think a Nixle alert to alert people that there's increased enforcement would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we made it clear at that community meeting that if we're going to be strictly enforcing vehicle code violations for the semi trucks, we have to be fair and equally enforce all safety violations. So yes, I'll put that out on Nixle.
Yeah, thanks.
Sylvia?
Yes, Chief Schultz, could you please just reiterate the proper numbers for the emergency calls. If folks did not want to use 911 because they're on a cell phone and they're concerned, because I know you made a correction on Nixle and on Nextdoor, but I thought since this was brought up at a previous meeting, maybe it would be good to bring it to this audience's attention as well.
I'm sorry about that. My computer's voice went absolutely out.
Oh. I was just asking if you could repeat the correction you've made already on Nextdoor and maybe by Nixle around the proper dispatch number, which you've made a correction, I know before, but since this came up at the last meeting, it might be good to bring the proper correction to this audience as well.
Yes, instead of on your cell phones, instead of dialing 911, you can dial directly to dispatch at 525-7573. In fact, call the dispatch anytime you need an officer for anything. It's more expedient if you call dispatch instead of calling the office, because you may or may not get a voicemail, and then it may be hours or even the next day before we get a hold of you. We rather take care of things right away. So just call dispatch if you need an officer for anything.
Thank you.
Walt, I've got a question about traffic. I don't want to get too much into it because it's not really what you're talking about now, but it'd be great if you could give a report next month on traffic enforcement throughout Kensington, because Calusa is not the only place where people drive crazy. I can think of one street in particular, I won't name it, but it's a concern throughout the community, and it'd be good if you could maybe give a comprehensive overview of what you and Officer Harms are doing to, I guess, control or inhibit bad traffic behavior throughout Kensington, not just around Calusa.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if there's any, okay, Sylvia. See if there's any attendees that wish to ask you a question. All right, I don't see any. Great, then let's go to Board of Directors communication. Any Board of Directors have anything they wish to communicate?
I have one item, which is at the October meeting. Vice President Shara Swat gave the summary of the community center financing of taxpayer money at 1.2 million, and Director Madavi had a different number, but the minutes of February 13th, 2014 show that the project for just the community center, he had mentioned that it was both the community center and the annex, but it was just the community center in 2014 dollars was $2,462,000. And if you increase that to inflation, it's $2,708,000, which is quite a bit more of taxpayer money than the 1.2. So it really was a remarkable work that Vice President Shara Swat and Director Hisai had done for the improvements to the community center. I just wanted to mention that clarification.
Rochelle, you have your hand up?
Yes. First, pardon?
Yes, go ahead, sorry.
First, I just want to congratulate Eileen and Sylvia for returning to the board. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with you for 4 years, and I look forward to working with you for at least the next 2. Happy Hanukkah to everyone who is celebrating. This is normally the meeting were we all together, where we would celebrate our volunteers who bring so much to the board. So you'll just virtual cake or cake next year. I guess we're all waiting for treats next year. So I do want to thank, and if I've forgotten anyone, please, other directors jump in. David Bergen, Peter Liddell, Jim Watt, Carl Kruger, Rob Furman, Paula Black, and Mike Logan. Thank you so much for the work that you did in person prior to March, and some virtually since then. Big thanks to Walt and to Bill for working the last 9 months in a really difficult situation. Almost 9 months. And thank you, Walt, for handling the work on Berkeley Park Boulevard. That's really been a sticky point for, we really, really appreciate it. And thanks to Officer Harms and both of you for working in extraordinary circumstances, which also are personally threatening. So thank you. We appreciate you every day, even if we don't communicate that very well. Lastly, the Finance Committee was scheduled to meet December 8th, but because of other problems putting together some of the information that we wanted to present, that meeting has been delayed until January 12th. That's all.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I've got something. And first, yeah, also congratulations to Sylvia and Eileen. And I echo what Rochelle said about thanks to Bill and Walt. It's I mentioned the other day, I went to get something from the public safety building and someone came out and I realized, oh, that's Walt Schultz. I'd never met him in person. So it's kind of a strange time. So I want to talk about the paths, and as mentioned before in the general public comments, there is not an agenda item about the paths. Rochelle and I had hoped to have something on this agenda. We wanted to flesh out some of the individual items that were listed in the steps needed to take over the paths or take ownership of the paths and maintain them. Wanted to get some costs, or at least estimated costs, ballpark, time, procedure, just try to flesh out what needs to happen. But to answer some of those basic questions, such as ownership, surveys, title search, I discovered after talking with our attorney and with a real estate professional, we really need 3 pieces of information. That's the original offer of dedication. We really want to see that. The subdivision map at the time of the dedication, because the two kind of would go hand in hand, and any property tax history. And I'll give an example of why that's important, because there has been some study about this. Greg Harmon actually in 2013 did look into it, and he talked to some public works, some property division manager for Contra Costa, and probably maybe a lawyer. And what he thought was the county might not even have legal standing to accept the transfer of the path, that the property owners along the path would have the standing, and that makes it a whole nother situation. But again, we really need to see the original offer of dedication and the subdivision map to try to get an idea about what really the status is. He also talked about what the cost of doing a title report on a path, and he estimated between $5,000 and $10,000 per path and 6 months to complete. So that would mean for 11 paths that could be over $100,000. Now, again, this is 2013. I'm not sure where he got the money or the numbers. So we really need to look into that ourselves and not just take some figures from back then, because we don't know if that's the same situation. But again, that's why we need to have these pieces of documentation so we can really get an idea, working with our attorney and maybe real estate professionals, but what the status really is and what's really required. So that's why we hope to have that by this meeting. I've asked for that from John Joya some weeks ago. I haven't gotten it yet. If we can't get it, we're going to present at the January meeting no matter what. So we'll present the information that we have. Hopefully we will have these things, and some also working with Ann and some other people about what it means and what has to happen going forward. So we will present at the January meeting with whatever information we have. Hopefully we will have these pieces. I need to clear up some misconception. We've gotten some emails saying we should accept the offer from John Joya. Some people said even for financial assistance to purchase the paths. Obviously, that's not the case. But in actuality, we don't have an offer from, well, John Joya wouldn't be writing a check, it would be the county, but we do not have an offer from John Joy. He's mentioned he'd like to help with surveying, I think, and some discussion or some mention of financial help, but we don't have a real offer. There's no terms, there's no conditions, there's no time limit. There really is not an offer that we could accept because there isn't one. I'm going to contact him and see if he could give us details about what he's talking about. And we can maybe have that at the January meeting as well. But just to clarify, there is no offer on the table from the county. At least, Bill, I don't think you've received one either, right? It's just a mention that John made that he'd like to help. So I'm sure he's sincere that he wants to help, but there is no concrete offer that we could just say, yes, we accept it. And when Rochelle and I are doing these, I guess, presentations, we're doing investigations, we really need to do any kind of analysis ourselves. We've had some people send us their analysis of costs, and we appreciate their time, but if someone wants to send us information, please send us source materials, maybe links to information on the web. But if you send us your analysis of what it's going to cost, we can't use it. We need to do this ourselves, and the board needs to get an independent research, and we're going to do that. So I appreciate the effort, but you'll just be really wasting your time if you go beyond just sending pure information. And beyond that, we might have to interview some people to get to further our investigation reports. And if someone goes and interviews somebody and then tells us what they told them, that's no good. We need to get that information ourselves directly firsthand. So not only it would be a waste of time, but it might even be wasting the person you're interviewing's time, because we're gonna have to go back and ask them the same thing maybe a second time, and they're not gonna be really happy. They're probably gonna wonder why different people are asking the same question. So if you think we need to talk to somebody, please send us the email, send us a suggestion. Please go talk to this person. They've got information. But if you go and interview them and tell us what they said, again, you're wasting their time and your time and our time. So please, it's a free country. You're free to do whatever you want. But I would ask that if there's people we need to talk to, send us the names and reason and let us interview them, because we're going to have to do that anyway. We need to stand behind our own research. So I appreciate all the effort and the interest, but Rochelle and I and the board needs to do its own analysis and investigation. So again, we'll be back in January with whatever we have, whatever information we can gather, and the paths aren't going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. So just relax, have a nice rest of the year, and we'll see everybody in January. All right. All right, thank you. All right, so the next item is the consent calendar. Consider approval of the meeting for the regular board meetings of November 12, 2020, and then some cleanup resolutions, 2020-21, the conflict of interest code, and receive the financial reports. So before I ask if there are any board members that want to pull these items, I want to see if anybody in the public has any comments on any of the consent calendar items. And I don't see anybody in the public. All right, then I'll close the public comments. Anybody on the board want to pull any of the three consent calendar items? Eileen, you've got your hand raised?
Yeah, it's a somewhat trivial, well, not so trivial. On the disclosure category 3, I think it may be a little too broad. And I think if you look at the FPCC conflict of interest, it might be, that kind of clarification might be needed, because one could have an investment in a mutual fund, for example, that has stock in Office Depot or something. And you might just want to narrow the disclosure category to exclude those funds where you don't have management control of, like a mutual fund.
So I believe that FPP's regs provide for exactly that. We could make that more explicit in the Appendix A. The same change would have to be made for disclosure category 1 and 2, I believe.
Well then, yeah, because that's
One
an
is-
important one.
One
I
is the
think.
broadest possible one. So perhaps what we could do is add a notation to Appendix A saying that investments of the type excluded by the COI code, the model CII, model conflict of interest code, are not within the categories of disclosure here.
Or Form 700.
Yes.
Yes,
That's right.
something like that. And then on the conflict of interest code history, 17 says code amendments required 2020, submitted October 7th, 2020. But today is December 10th.
I'm sorry. I did not actually write that staff report, so let me have a look. Where are you, please?
Well, let's see, Exhibit A, then you have category 2 and 3 on the next page. Then you have conflict of interest code history.
There we are. Okay. Hang on. Okay.
Item 17 at the bottom.
Yeah, I don't understand that. That was probably something, I don't know because I didn't draft the history, but I think that should be modified.
Yeah.
It was probably something that was intended to go to the board earlier.
Right.
And it was just never changed.
Right.
Well, could you summarize those proposed changes?
Sure.
So we've got them.
Appendix A will be amended to exclude investments not covered by Form 700 disclosure requirements.
Okay.
And the date on the history exhibit, which I believe is, it doesn't really have a page or a exhibit number, but I would just say the conflict of interest history included in the agenda item packet. Item 17 shall be changed to say submitted December 10th, 2020.
Okay. So given this is a consent calendar, do we still need to read out the resolutions?
I think when you make the motion to approve, you can say, add to that motion with the, that the resolution for that item will be modified as specified by council.
Okay, do I have a motion then? Will someone do that? Go ahead, Sylvia. Unmute. There you go.
Yeah. So I make a motion that we adopt the consent calendar with the changes that have been specified to resolution 2020-21.
And the history friendly amendment and the history.
Yes, and the history of the amendment, sure.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, I'll take a roll call. Sylvia?
Aye.
Rochelle?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Cyrus?
Aye.
And I vote yes. So consent calendar is adopted with the changes. All right. The next item is discuss and consider revision to policy 4170.1 to change the regular board meetings to monthly rather than twice monthly. And this is something I've been asking or thinking would be a good idea for a while. We've canceled a lot of meetings in the middle of the month. I think we can go back to one meeting a month, and it really is, a lot of it is staff time. It's a huge overhead for the staff to prepare a meeting. And if you've got 2 meetings a month, they tend to just spend all their time getting ready for meetings, cleaning or doing the necessary bookkeeping after the meeting. It just goes from one to the next, and it really eats up the staff time. I know, Bill, do you want to, maybe talk about that a bit as well?
I can, yeah. I think that just the mechanics of preparing an agenda, putting together agenda reports, noticing, getting things posted and so forth. I think it takes more time than you might think. And from my perspective, it's always good to have very productive meetings. And from my perspective is productive meetings have full agendas and full participation by staff. And the other thing too is that, for staff to attend a meeting, since most of your administrative employees are hourly employees, every meeting costs some money just to have them sit and wait for an agenda item to come up. So that's the cheapskate coming out of me as well. We did, for example, cancel a finance committee meeting, I think a bit reluctantly just this past week, but that was just for that reason. There were some things that ended up being not timely for the finance committee to discuss, and felt that we could have a very full and productive meeting if we moved those items for discussion in January. Hopefully they were okay with that. I didn't get negative comments about that, but and this is just from the staff perspective. Obviously, this is your organization, and you have to think what works best for your decision-making processes. But for us, 1 meeting per month is something that's good for us to have.
Well, and I think it's a better for the public if they know that there's just 1 meeting a month, as opposed to having to wonder, is that second one going to get canceled? Besides for the board, I mean, it takes up our time as well. But I think it'd be good for the public to know or to count on, okay, just 1 meeting a month. If we need a special meeting, we can do it. But it seems like for everybody a better way to go, rather than to have 2 meetings a month and cancel every other, second meeting. So I see we've got some hands up. Sylvia, I'm not sure who was first, so yeah, go ahead, Sylvia.
That's fine. I actually didn't realize I put my hand up, but I just want to say that it's fine. I support it. I think that there were some, important projects and things that were happening when we went to 2 meetings a month. But I do appreciate more now over time, the overhead cost and the staff time to putting the meetings together. And I'm supportive of the move. And I think, I personally didn't think we had canceled that many meetings. And I think it's just a matter of, do we have 2 meetings a month? And then I agree with you, it's not great to cancel them. And so I would ask the public's indulgence that when we do feel that there are needs to have special meetings, that we aren't, that people give us the benefit of the doubt about why we're doing things at a special meeting. It's so that we can free up staff time to do only 1 meeting a month and try to come to a special meeting only when necessary. So thank you.
Eileen, you had your hand up, I think.
Yeah, I have 2 comments. The first, if we're going to amend this, we might think about having the meeting start at 7 rather than 7:30. The reason we selected 7:30 was historic. It had been 7:30, and we had a lot of closed sessions before the meeting. And with people commuting from San Francisco, 7:30 made a much better starting time. But I think that the 7 o'clock time is better, since we're not having as many special meetings with alternates on police discipline action. The other is a little bit of history of why we had for a time 2 meetings a month. And that's because the major project that we got done was the P&P manual, which required readings at 2 regular meetings. And that was a Herculean effort. And I thank all the help that I had from General Manager Tony Constanturis, General Counsel Ann Danforth, and Vice President Shara Swat in getting that sizable document which had to go through 2 readings at regular meetings. And in order to complete that in a year, instead of 5 or 6 or 10 years, we had 2 meetings a month. So that's just a little history of why we did that. And the only other month that you might want to just keep 2 meetings is the month of May. Of course, we disregarded it this past year, but that's because the budget should be approved before the end of the fiscal year. And you have to have a draft reading of it and then the approval of it. So, but that's the history of why we went to 2 meetings a month, was to get that project done.
And does the budget have to be done at regular meetings, or could the second meeting, if it was necessary, be a special meeting?
Let me check on that very quickly. I think it can be done at a special meeting, actually. You know, the irony here is that the district is not required to have a budget at all. So I'm guessing, and I am guessing here, that we wouldn't. But every responsible governmental agency has a budget, because it's how you plan what you're going to do with your finances. But I can check if you like.
And I think Director Natoli and Sheriff Swat would know, since they've all been on the finance committee. If we don't have to have it at a special meeting, then we can always call it. I mean, if it doesn't have to be at a regular meeting, then we can always call a special.
Michelle?
My memory is that it had to be at a regular meeting, because there was a time when you adopt the budget, because there was a time in 2015 where we failed to present, the budget was not presented, and we ended up making our regular meeting the special meeting and then adopting the budget at the regular meeting.
Now, could that have been under the prior Policies and Procedures Act?
Oh, that's true. That is true. That was under.
I'm fairly confident that the new one does not. Although I'll have to look at that. Give me a sec.
The other reason, I mean, we began doubling up meetings, I think, was in early 2017 when we split the GM chief of police positions in order to vote for contracts and agree to salaries. That had to be done during a regular meeting. So it was very difficult. We wanted to get people in place as quickly as possible.
There were a lot of.
My only question about going to 7 next year hopefully for folks, board members who possibly commute, Cyrus, would 7 work, or would that be a burden on you?
I mean, also it's for the residents too, so that they can come to the meetings. It's not just about the personal convenience of the board. And so 7:30 was designed because there were people on the board who were coming from 7:30. It stands to reason residents were also coming from 7:30. So to just say, oh, it's now more convenient for us, does the town a disservice.
Well, not really. The fire boards had their meetings at 7 o'clock for quite some time.
Well, I think the difficulty is if we don't go to 7, if we have a very full agenda, there's the possibility that you go very late. And actually, I find that detrimental.
That hasn't stopped you from constantly voting to extend the meetings for long periods for this last 2 years. So I don't see why
it's not been good. I would agree. I think it's not good to do that.
But you are doing it actively.
Let's just discuss the issue at hand here. Thank you.
No, I'm saying we stick with the historical time.
Well, if we have to go to a vote, then I would agree with 7 o'clock. So if we want to talk about each element of the change, then we can split up I look at the language of the resolution, but I agree that we had pushed the meetings later, partly because there were so many closed sessions necessary. That is less necessary. And I am also concerned by going to 1 meeting a month, we will have very full agendas, and the extra half hour would be good.
Yeah, I support going to 7. And again, the fire board has been at 7 for a long time. But I will probably need to take a vote on that. Let me, before we really get into discussing or proposing motions, let me see if anybody in the public has something to say about this. Oh, there's one. I was getting worried. No one's saying anything. Okay. Julie, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Well, I support you making this change to move to one meeting a month. And I do think it's worked fine for the fire board. I mean, I'm obviously haven't been on it for that long, but to start the meetings at 7, our attendance is good. And sometimes I think the public sort of forgets that the meetings are for the board members to meet with each other and conduct their business. And they're not exactly, meant as town hall meetings. But I really think that meeting burnout is a true psychological factor for both staff and board members, as your general manager said. There is a certain rhythm to a monthly meeting because it takes a lot of time to prepare for a board meeting. The fire board this calendar year, has had 31 meetings. And I really do not think that it has served us well. I think that it often has resulted in agendas that are not that well thought out, and a lot of discussion items that don't result in anything. And if you know that your time is limited to have your business meetings, I think it really causes people to hone their decision making and focus on the truly important decisions. So I think it's hard for the public to keep up with so many meetings. And I think it's hard for board members. Everybody gets testy when you're meeting too often. So I support what you're doing. And if you decided to move your meetings to 7, I would support that also.
All right, well, thank you for your perspective. Here we go. Great. Anybody else?
If I may.
All right. Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say something about the budget, but maybe you've got something already.
Oh, I was going to say about the budget. It was the old policy that required a meeting in May and then a second meeting for adoption. That policy is still on the books, but we're in the process of revising it as one of the final pieces of the new policies. So the board, whatever board decision the board makes tonight will be incorporated into the new policy.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like if we're not required to have a budget, there wouldn't be any legal requirements about when we adopt a budget.
I think that's true.
Yeah, okay.
One other point, since we are in the process of hiring a general manager and a chief of police, we should check the P&P manual to see if we're required to have the contract approved at a regular meeting. And if we don't need to have a regular meeting, then that's great, because we could have a special meeting if we have the opportunity to approve the contract. What I'd hate to do is be stuck with months delay in hiring people because it has to be at a regular meeting.
Yeah, I don't believe it does, but I'll double check on that.
Thank you.
Well, we could always, if we had to, revise the policy again, right?
That's
I mean, there's nothing preventing us if it looks like it was going to hamper or inhibit our progress, we could revise this policy again to go to 2 meetings a month, right? There would be nothing.
Yes.
If we can go back, we can go forward.
But
right.
that still creates a possible month delay in hiring. That's all I'm trying to get at. We know we want to hire a general manager and a chief of police.
Well, it wouldn't be a month, it would be 2 weeks.
Maybe. I think if we went to 1 meeting a month, it could be a month delay in hiring someone.
I will get back to you on that. And I would assume that the board would like me to allow for perhaps a grace period of effective February. If in fact it turns out that you need 2 meetings to do, if you have to approve the contract at a regular meeting. Or
I would say we start in January. That's
okay.
Yeah, I do think we are trying to set a policy for a regular meeting, and that is important that we try to keep it regular. And I do appreciate the concern around the hiring, but I think we probably just have to go forward and do our best. And
what we did before, if I may, sorry to interrupt, is that we had that policy. Sometimes there was delay. If it was an employee, the general manager had discretionary funds, right, up to $5,000. they then extended the salary, and then we voted on the contract, which we still, of course, have the ability to veto. So that's what would happen in the case of bringing on someone who was not the general manager. We have the ability to bring someone in and approve the salary. The salary, as I remember, has to be approved at a regular meeting. Maybe that was just under the old policy manual. So, but the contract, I think, could be approved at a special meeting. It was the salary that was.
I believe that's true. I don't remember any requirement for salary, but I can check on that as well.
And that's a result of the P&P manual, not like Brown Act or some other.
Brown Act doesn't speak to these issues. So.
Thank you.
Any other concerns? All right, well, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-22, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District, amending policy number 4170-1 to reduce the number of regular board meetings to 1 per month with the following change. The start time shall be 7 p.m. instead of 7:30 p.m. Do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
All right, so I'll take a vote. Sylvia?
Aye.
Rochelle?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Cyrus?
Aye.
And I vote yes. So thank you. Great. All right. On to the next. Number 7, review and approve scope of work and contract with William Driscoll to provide maintenance services at the Kensington Community Center in Kensington Park for the base monthly amount of $900. Bill, could you introduce this? Actually, there are 2 separate agenda items, but they're kind of the same, but I'll let you introduce this in the next one.
Exactly. And in fact, I was going to address both of them. Thank you, Mr. Chair. They do go together. The first item, item 7, is a contract with William Driscoll for ongoing maintenance services that are focused at the Kensington Community Center with some maintenance responsibilities in the park itself. And then item 8 is the scope of work and contract with Fernando Herrera for ongoing maintenance services at Kensington Park. And I actually did meet on site with Mr. Driscoll to talk about the work that needs to be done, and both at the community center and at the park. And these are intended to be divided, these 2 contracts. One is more or less inside work and the other is outside work, although, and I mean that literally, one is inside the community center and the other is park and landscape environments for the most part. And I think the amounts, I did solicit proposals from both of these individuals, and what I was especially interested in is the scope of work. There may have been a contract at one time, it may have been a scope of work at one time. I couldn't find one in the files, and so I wanted to make sure it was detailed pretty well. So regarding the community center, as you know, is not being utilized, and one might think that it doesn't need maintenance, but even vacant buildings need maintenance. They need to have their systems checked. They need to be you need to keep the cobwebs and the dust out of it, and the idea here was to provide enough maintenance where when an order is lifted and it's ready to go, that the community center would not take months and months to reestablish. That it could be, you could have a public health order that changes, and within a matter of days, it could be ready to go and serve the community the way you, I'm sure, had intended when you embarked on the renovation. So I won't read the scope of work, but the scope of work for Mr. Driscoll is, in essence, to keep the community center in good working order that would allow for its immediate opening as allowed by public health orders. When the public health orders change, the maintenance, the frequency will go up significantly and the cost will go up. But for right now, this is an amount, weekly basis, weekly maintenance that we think would be good. It does again provide all of these various responsibilities and also general oversight of the building and grounds. So this is where it sort of drifts outside a little bit, as Mr. Driscoll is going to look at things in the park and look at what needs to get done and work with Mr. Herrera to make sure that those get done. He will also provide the 24-hour on-call response for any emergency situation. So he'll in essence be the go-to person. When something comes up, he'll be the person that that I would call, or that somebody would call police dispatch, and dispatch would have somebody that they can get on board, that is already on board, that can get out to work right away. And that I think is important, I think, for just regular service of the park, or of the park and the community center. I think the amount that was proposed was reasonable. It does reflect a lower amount, as I mentioned, and it does, when I do the budget analysis, it does reflect the fact that we're going to get less revenue from rentals for the community center. When the rental revenues come in, it should be adequate to pay for the higher level of maintenance. So it does balance. Both of these contracts together are within the budget that you adopted. Going to Mr. Herrera's proposed contract, a little bit simpler in the responsibilities. It's the outside responsibilities for the park. And the base monthly cost is actually the same as he's receiving now for monthly services, with one exception, and that is that the Gore lot, which was never assigned a responsibility, is now within the regular base monthly maintenance for keeping it clean and keeping it cut back. It doesn't landscape the Gore lot, but if you ever did put some money in to provide landscaping for that Gore lot, it does provide then for the ongoing maintenance there. I would note what's not in that contract, which are the especially time-consuming kinds of things, but it does have an hourly rate established for those items to get done. And again, the idea here is that rather than get into a task order situation where every single maintenance activity needs to get approval, you fix responsibility, and you have judgment from these two individuals to make it work. So I was really happy with the proposals we got, and I would recommend the approval of both of these contracts for the amounts stated.
All right, any board members have questions? Sylvia?
Yeah, no, it was not really a question. I just think we should, in the final version of the scope of work with Mr. Driscoll, you can change quote unquote Kensington Cheese Building to the corner of Amherst and Arlington Avenue. And that will be more specific in the future.
Got it.
That's all. And there are some specific items I will email to you, Bill, that fall under Mr. Driscoll's responsibility that I've noted and haven't sent along, but some items that I will just send to you and you can work with him on those.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Rochelle?
Okay, Bill, I just had a couple quick questions just to clarify. Maybe I'm not absorbing this as well as I should. So right now, the monthly cost for the community center cleaning will be $200, and then along with daily restroom cleaning and trash, which results in a contract that's $900 a month.
Correct.
Okay, and then you have, when the community center opens, the base will be $1,800 a month. Is that then the restroom cleaning is an addition?
No, it's a little bit different because the restroom cleaning actually becomes lower. It actually goes back to its what it used to be, which was included in the base maintenance. The reason it goes to 200 is because it's now daily morning cleaning and disinfecting, and that's a higher standard than you had before. If you want to keep that standard, you'll have to continue to pay the $200. If you were satisfied with the way it was before, you can let it drift back down.
Okay, so then the base would double to 1,800 a month.
Right. And again, as you're alluding to, it's because of the more frequency of the maintenance. It's because there's more rental use, and that's the reason.
Okay, because previously we did not have the building cleaned after every day or after every rental use at all. So
yeah, and unfortunately, I don't have a context for what the maintenance was like and whether it was satisfactory or whether you thought it needed more. And it's something again that we could revisit when the orders are lifted and when they're used more.
The burden frequently fell upon the renters, and that was pretty detailed. But maybe this is a switch that the board would rather make, that the cleaning really is maintained by staff, and therefore we're not worried about the renters being so detailed in their pickup.
Yeah, my understanding is that, at least this is from what Mr. Driscoll was saying, is that at this higher amount, the renters still do just the basic setup and takedown, but they don't do the more intensive cleaning that would need to be done to have it ready for the classes or the next rental that comes along.
No, they weren't doing any mopping or anything like that.
Yeah,
and in fact,
right.
I know that community groups sometimes said to me, "Oh gosh, we would do more if we knew where the garbage bags were or the this or that." But having staff do it is fine. And I suppose there may be a period here where actually we are allowed to open up, but we really do want more intense cleaning done in that building until we know that we're in a safer area with COVID. So
I think that's an excellent point, and it's something that can be revisited later on when the orders are.
When we kind of, go back to normal. Okay. Would you suggest then having a length of this contract that we have time it out, say 18 months or 2 years, or would you just suggest that we revisit it when?
I would suggest if you end up approving it, just include in the motion that the contract would come back for a reassessment when public health orders change.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bill.
If I may add a qualification to that resolution suggestion, I would say when health orders change in a way that affects the cleaning needs, because public health orders are changing all the time. And I doubt you want us to be coming back each and every time.
I had a comment similar to Sylvia's. I would say the northwest corner of Arlington and Amherst to replace Kensington cheese, and the Gore lot. Gore is just an adjective, and I would say the vacant lot at the corner of Arlington and Coventry.
Okay. Chris, you're muted. Are you speaking?
I was speaking, yes.
Okay.
The parking lot next to the Gore lot and the mailbox, I'm assuming that's owned by the county, right? We don't have any responsibility for that?
I might be the wrong person to ask, but that's my understanding, that
Okay.
that is not our just to maintain.
I believe it's ours.
Oh, okay.
I was led to understand a few years ago that that parking lot is our. No, I don't think we've ever been able to find documents, but
Great.
like these contracts, which thank you for doing these, Bill. I know that Director Hasai has been looking for these contracts for, I don't know, as long as she's been on the board. So thank you for procuring them, but that'll be analysis maybe for another day. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be glad to research that, the parking lot area.
It's probably good to find out, you know,
Yeah,
sort of one way or the other.
I was under the impression that was not ours either, but you know, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question.
Cyrus?
So I agree with the scope of work and the costs, but I'm just reading through this general manager report, and the instructions are to review and approve the scope of work and associated contract. And I went through the entire packet, and there is no associated contract to review or for us to even vote on.
Yeah, the contract is not done. It would be based on the scope of work, and in the recommendation, it says the contract to be approved as the final form by district legal counsel. So if you do end up approving the scope of work and the cost, then I would work with Ms. Danforth to prepare a contract in the standard form, subject to her final approval.
Well, we've never seen the standard form, even though we were promised we would see that at some point. And B, the instructions that are explicitly in this write-up is that we would be reviewing and agreeing also on the contract. So, I mean, I'm wondering how we're supposed to be prepared to vote on this.
You know, the other thing I would offer is to have the actual contracts come back based on the scope of work, based on the cost. We can put them on the consent calendar so you have a chance to read them, but authorize, it's actually within my signature authority to get it going for a month, and we can put it on the next agenda. Because I do understand you want to see the full form of the contract, and I have no problem with that at all.
In fact, we have seen numerous times the standard contract because Ann Danforth uses the same basic contract over and over.
It's true.
Haven't seen for personnel contracts.
We rarely do those.
Yeah, so that we haven't seen the standard form for that.
Well, again, I think the last one that we did was for, I guess, for Chief Schuld.
But he's the chief of police. His contract is not going to be written in this.
We've had contracts, Cyrus, with various people doing spraying a pesticide. I'm trying to remember, and some of the other numerous contracts that we've had.
And landscaping and all those poison oak contracts.
We did the tennis court resurfacing was one that was done.
Yeah, but those aren't personnel contracts. Perhaps I misunderstood Director Modavi's question. Personnel contracts are typically how you refer to a contract where you're hiring someone.
These are contracts for services.
These are contracts for service. That's correct.
These are not personnel contracts. These are independent contractors.
But we could approve these items with the understanding that the contract would come back to the board in January for approval.
Sure.
Yeah,
that works.
Okay.
I do have a question about, I understand that we would want to revisit this as needed with, you know, significant changes in health orders that would relate to cleaning. Whether that's included in the contract or not, I'm not sure. But otherwise, I think Director Sherris-Watt sort of raised this question. Are these contracts just enforced until either party wants a change, you know, with a 30-day notice, or do they expire and get reviewed, you know?
They can go either way. Some of them are for a period of time. for something like this, where we've had long-lasting relationships with both of these gentlemen, I would suggest they're enforced until terminated by either party.
Okay,
And of course, you can always revisit the scope of work and change it very easily.
right. So let's something with like a 30-day notice if possible type thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
unless
agree.
that's a pause, in which case you can do it immediately.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Bill, may I ask a question on the approval of scope of work for Fernando Herrera? The fiscal impact there, it says, and forgive me if somebody asked this, the combined monthly amount of this proposed contract with the monthly amount of $900 for base community center landscape services. Is he then charging an extra $900 a month for the community center landscaping, or is that supposed to be the cleaning?
No, that probably is not written well. It's $900 for the community center.
Okay, for the cleaning.
Right, and I think there's some outside areas, and what I was trying to point out in the fiscal analysis was if you take that $900 and you combine it with the 2225, it equaled the 3125, and that number times 12 stayed below your budget. So I was just trying to indicate that the whole amount, you know, the two contracts combined would stay below your budget.
Okay, those are the
That was
two
the
contracts,
intent,
not one.
anyway.
Okay, great. Okay, super.
All right, I'm going to get some public comment, but let's just recap the changes so we know. The weekly emptying of the district trash cans, one includes the circle and the other at the, what did you say, Sylvia?
And together with Eileen and I, it's the northwest corner of Amherst and Arlington Avenue.
Okay. And the Gore lot, Eileen, what was your change for that?
The vacant lot at Arlington and Coventry
Right, Arlington Avenue and Coventry Road, I think.
Road. Yeah.
And yeah, throughout Gore lot should be removed, and we should just refer to it more specifically.
Okay. And was there any other change we needed to add?
We wanted with a 30-day notice. That
Right.
either party could end the contract with 30-day notice.
Unless it's for cause, in which case it could be done immediately. And that would be, I think, in the contract form, which would come back.
yes.
Right. And that the contract, do we want to have as part of the resolution that the contract would come back in January? Or is that just an understanding?
You can leave that as an understanding if you want, or include it in the motion to approve the scope of work and cost.
Okay. Okay, great. Let me see.
Oh, can I
Go
request
ahead.
that someone makes a motion that these contracts come back no later than January of 2023 to be looked at? Because I think that the board should examine.
Just provide for an annual review.
And yeah, some kind of review. I just think
Okay.
that we make sure that it's our wish that folks are looking at these.
Right. Yeah, I like annual review. That's good.
That would be more of an instruction to staff to review these contracts on an annual basis.
That's fine. Yeah, great.
All right, let me see what the public has to say about this, and then we can get to motions. Delk? You're on, Delk. Still there?
She's muted, I believe.
Yes, there she goes.
There I am. Hi. Delk. Sounds like this has already been approved, but I do have one comment to make. The agenda report states that the scope of the work included in the proposal by Mr. Driscoll includes weekly emptying the 2 district-owned trash cans, one at the Calusa Circle and the other at Kensington Cheese Building. Thank you, Sylvia, for pointing that out, that's rather a cheesy way to identify the location. However, I thought that the district still has 5 public cans, 2 on Colusa, 3 on Arlington, plus 1 recycling can. Regardless of that, according to the District Bayview agreement, contractor, that is Bayview, shall provide service to the district at no additional cost for emptying public litter and recycling cans. In the past, this has meant the district cans on the sidewalks in the shopping areas. Has the Bayview contract been amended to delete this? If so, why? But if not, why will Mr. Driscoll be paid $200 a month to empty 2 of the 6 public cans that are not at the community center or in the park? I hope this is clarified before the contract is approved, because you're talking about $1,200 a year for doing something that Bayview is supposed to do. Thank you.
I think Eileen might be able to address that.
Yeah, there's
Eileen?
5 public garbage cans and Bayview empties them during the weekdays. What Bill does is empty just 2 of the 5 on Saturday late afternoon, and that's because they get filled up and garbage starts overflowing on both of those cans. Now, we could be more specific on the Colusa one. That would be, let's see, that would be the northeast corner of Colusa and Oakview, if you wanted to specify that. That's the reason. Bayview does pick up during the weekdays, but they provide no weekend service. Bill does. And by the way, he takes the garbage that he picks up and puts it in the dumpster at the community center. So Bayview does pick it up from there.
Okay, great. All right, can we just move to adopt both of these at once? Someone want to do that? Someone brave enough?
I will. I'll do my best.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the scope of work for William Driscoll for ongoing maintenance services at the Kensington Community Center and Kensington Park, and the scope of work for Fernando Herrera for ongoing maintenance services at Kensington Park, with the following changes. In the scope of work for William Driscoll, it should specify that the 2 district-owned trash cans are one at the northeast corner of Oakview and Colusa Avenue, and the other at the corner of the northwest corner of Amherst and Arlington Avenue. And
no, Sylvia, excuse me, it's northeast, and it's the northeast corner of Amherst. Sorry about that.
okay, sorry. So the northeast corner in both cases of, and then
northwest at Colusa and Oakview, northeast at Amherst and Arlington. Sorry, so sorry.
Okay, I'm not good at directional stuff, so I was just going to use the corners. So the northwest corner of Oakview and Colusa, and the northeast corner of Amherst and Arlington Avenue.
Yeah, sorry.
In this change in the scope of work for Mr. Herrera should be that the term gore lot is stricken at every instance, and that it is referred to as the vacant lot at Coventry Road and Arlington Avenue. And the attendant contracts should come back to the board for approval in January. And the staff direction is that these contracts should be reviewed and the scope of work should be reviewed annually.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, let's take a vote. Eileen,
Yes.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Sylvia,
Yes.
Cyrus,
Aye.
and I vote yes. Great. 5-0. Thank you, Bill, for organizing this. It's something everyone's been wanting for a long time. So this is great. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you for letting me know about the real estate and the corners and the street names. That's very helpful.
Yeah, right. Great. So the final agenda item of the year is elect a president and vice president of the Kensington Police Protection and Community Services District. Board of Directors for the terms of office to commence January 1st, 2021. Let me first see if there's any attendees that have anything to say about this. It's been very quiet. Okay. Panelists, I guess we should just take some motions. Everybody have a motion?
Does it matter what
Michelle?
order?
No,
Chris, do you
move
want to?
ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, Rochelle.
Oh, okay. Well, first I want to thank President Deppie because he's done an amazing job in a really, really difficult year. I'm really grateful and feel really lucky to have worked with him because his computer knowledge has been vital. You'll have noted how many times he's had to step in during a meeting and see how the Zoom process works. And I know it's sticky for everybody, but he's really done so much work behind the scenes. So thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
It was a great pleasure to work with you. But I know that it's been also wearing, and I think both of us think that the time has come for new leadership. So I'm going to nominate Sylvia Hassai as president of the KPPCSD for 2021.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and it's great working with you as well. And it's actually been a privilege to be president. It's not easy; it's a lot of work, but I have, in my own way, enjoyed it. So, and I would like to second that motion for Sylvia to be president, if I may do so. Any discussions on that, or should we? Well, let's just take a vote. Eileen?
Yes.
Cyrus?
Aye.
Michelle?
Yes.
I vote yes, and Sylvia, I'll leave you last.
You didn't give me a chance to refuse.
No, I didn't. No.
Well, I do also want to echo Rachel's thanks and think you've done a great job. And I've been holding off on this for a while because for various reasons, but I've learned a lot from watching all the presidents before me, and I happily accept the responsibility and will vote aye as well. Thank you for nominating me, and it's definitely my turn to serve in this role, and I appreciate all that has come before me to make it easier.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Well, I do think some continuity, is great right now, given the fact that we're in so many interim, phases. So if you're not too worn out, I would appreciate your sort of assistance as a vice president. But if that's something that's, too much for you to ask, that's okay too. But I would appreciate some continuity in that regard. If you're potentially willing, I would make that motion.
Well, I'd offer to do a lot of help, but I think I'd rather someone else do that, to be honest. I'm more than happy to help behind the scenes, still give computer help. I think I'd be more effective than as vice president, to be honest. So I'd actually, in fact, I'll just go ahead. I'd like to nominate Eileen for vice president. I think you two work really well together. You just both won re-election in a pretty definitive way. I think new leadership is always good. So again, I'm willing to help out as anything you need. But I think it's time for me also to step back.
Well, I will second that if Eileen will accept that.
I would love if Eileen would do it. I think that this coming year, I'm hoping that we get to finally address some of the things that are really in her passion projects in her wheelhouse, with composting and a new garbage renewal contract.
Well, actually, Sylvia wants to do the composting, and I'm absolutely delighted to step back from that. And I'm sure she'll do an extremely capable job of that and the Bayview contract. But thank you.
Are you saying you
I
don't?
I didn't hear no, so.
Yeah, I mean, I can take those on. That's not a problem. You don't have to take those on.
Yeah.
But are you willing to serve as our vice president?
Yeah, I will serve as your vice president and help you where I can.
Good. So I second your motion, Chris, and Eileen has accepted.
Okay, so we'll take a vote again. We'll make it, by the time it comes around to Eileen, there's no, she can't say anything. So Rochelle, how do you vote?
Yes.
Cyrus?
Aye.
Sylvia?
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay, Eileen, what do you say?
I'll vote yes.
Okay, thank you. That's 5-0. So congratulations, Sylvie and Eileen. I'm sure you'll be great president and vice president. And again, thank you, Rochelle, for your kind words. And also, Bill, it was really great working with you and Walt and Anne.
My pleasure.
You know where to find me. So
yeah, and thank you, Chris and Rochelle, because both of you did a tremendous job this year. It was really impressive and terrific.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both for serving.
Well, we couldn't have done it without the support of all the board members. So, and Anne, thank you. It's been a really long and tough year on everyone. And so I hope everyone really stays safe and well until we get sensible healthcare.
Yeah. All right.
That's basically forever from now.
I know. Well, hey, I'm looking at June. How's that? Go wild in June.
All right.
All right.
Well, happy holidays, everybody.
All right.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
See everybody in 2021. Thank you.
Yeah.
Meeting is adjourned. All right.
Bye.